tattoo artists of Reddit. What is the most wholesome story behind a tattoo you did? My ex is a tattoo artist. The most wholesome thing she ever did on someone was two drunk English guys walked into the shop a few minutes before closing. They were best friends on a road trip across the states with the ashes of the third friend that was supposed to go with them. They had been planning it for years. They both got his name tattooed on their butt. The plan for them was to show their butt to historical places. Apparently the friend wanted to moon Mount Rushmore. They decided that they'd show their butt to all of the historical places they were visiting. That's hilarious, inappropriate and heartwarming. A friend of mine is a tattoo artist. She got a guy come in with a photo of a tattoo on someone and insisted it be placed in the same place. Exactly the same. It was a pink butterfly on the right wrist. When she asked him questions about it, he got offensive and just wanted to get it done. He was a big guy with a nearly full body of tattoos getting a pink butterfly on his wrist. Anyway, she does the tattoo. Only took about 30 minutes. And when he saw the finished tattoo he started to cry. It was his daughter's tattoo, one he took her to get. She had died a couple of weeks before in an auto accident, and he wanted to get her tattoo as a memorial. When he tried to explain beforehand, he kept getting choked up and got defensive automatically, as guys often do. When she asked him questions about it, he got defensive. TBF. When people ask me about my tattoos I find it easier to just say something like they're personal, because otherwise I usually have to explain what a Skyrim is and why I have the dragon word for full tattooed on me. I feel like I read on here a couple months ago about a tattoo artist who had a grandmother and grandchildren come in. The grandchildren wanted tattoos that match their grandmothers. The grandmother was a concentration camp survivor. The tattoo artist did the tattoos for free. Does anyone else remember that story? That's the sweetest, darkest thing I've ever read. It's hard to pick a particular one, because people come in for sentimental reasons all the time. Certainly any memorial piece can be emotional for the client, and since I'm a sympathetic crier I always end up explaining their aftercare with the trying not to cry too wobble in my voice. Recently, though, I did a portrait of a woman's husband with his own signature reproduced underneath. His name was Tommy and she brought in a memory book of photos she'd made of her and him together that she'd given him on his last birthday before he passed from a sudden cancer, 2 weeks from diagnosis to death. Once the tattoo was done we flipped through the book together and she explained where they were and why he was so wonderful. Throughout the next few weeks I've had half a dozen people come in raving about the portrait and how much everyone loves it and sharing memories with me about the guy. He was very well loved by the community, and I'm honored I got to tattoo him. This is such a sweet story and you sound like a lovely person. It must have meant a lot to the woman being able to share those stories of her husband. Tattoo artist for about 2 years here. Last winter I had a happy couple in their 20s walk in wanting tattoos. I didn't think much of it because we take walk-ins every day. The girl goes first and got a small heart on her wrist. The guy goes second and gets a traditional diamond tattoo. It's basically just a really simple cartoon version of a diamond. I ask him why he wants this and just says he likes the design. Alright, no problem. They both leave happy. A week later I get a message from the girl thanking me for making their tattoo day so special. The guy had proposed to her later that evening after being together for 5 years. He got the tattoo to commemorate their engagement while she had no idea that he was going to propose. This still warms my heart every time I think about it. And also I'm glad she said yes because that would have sucked for him. Good thing she didn't say no. Not a tattoo artist, but I saw a news article recently about how a bunch of local female tattoo artists were offering free nipple tattoos for breast cancer survivors. My husband has also done a couple free nipple tats. He's only about a year in, but plans on always keeping them free. Not a tattoo artist, but my tattoo. My best friend died in an accident right after we started college. Her dad is a tattoo artist so we always talked about getting our first ones together. What I wanted changed pretty much constantly, but she always wanted this too shell pass on her wrist. A few months after she passed I went to her dad's shop and he tattooed it on me. It was always going to be a special one, but having her dad do it made it much more. I had a kid come in that was moving from home, probably for college, and he had to leave his kitty behind. So he wanted to get her paw print on the spot she normally rests her paw. It almost brought tears to my eyes because I adore my cat and couldn't imagine leaving her. Well, I know what tattoo I'm going to get now. Not an artist, but a story about my most recent tattoo. My grandma passed away about a month and a half ago. While sitting in the hospital room with her during the last few days, all of a sudden she starts reaching for something on the table beside her. It was only me, my wife and 2 aunties in the room. Grandma kept saying, "Why there is a feather right here," adamant she could see a feather and trying to grab it. A feather is a symbol from heaven that everyone that has passed is doing good in heaven and you shouldn't have any worries. It was so surreal, and I crap you not walking out of the hospital. What's on the ground outside my vehicle? A feather. The day after she passed, I find 2 feathers on the ground outside my door. One for grandma and one for grandpa who passed away 13 years ago, and just got an absolute chill down my spine like someone was right behind my shoulder. I recently got a white black feather on my forearm and will forever look at it whenever I miss her. I'm sorry for your loss. That's a great tattoo. I hope you're happy with it. Obligatory nata. But I've got some wholesome stories. My brother-in-law tattooed the first real drawing his daughter ever made. Like the first one that wasn't scribbles at least. She drew a monster on a napkin in a restaurant and it had arms and legs and a face. He was overjoyed and had it tattooed. As for me, I'm getting a tattoo in honor of my nephew on my ribs this year. He died of childhood leukemia. I'm very sorry for your loss, and I hope the tattoo will be a comforting way to remember him. Not a tattoo artist, as I'm sure you'll know through reading this thread, but I got my first tattoo done on my 1 year of being clean from self-harm. I was an on and off cutter growing up, and 6 months after my failed suicide attempt I met the lead singer of my favorite band, Pierce the Veil. My fellow emos will know who they are, and got him to write out a quote from their song for me and he drew a heart on the autograph too. So fast forward a few more months, I'd reached my 1 year and decided to tattoo the quote to my ribs and got the heart he drew on the autograph done on my wrist. It was a way of promising myself to never fall back into that habit again and to always remind myself of why I got this done and the meaning behind it if I ever have those urges again. And as cheesy as it may sound, it's actually worked and helped me with my recovery. Now this February, I'll be 3 years clean from self-harm. That's awesome. I'm an eating disorder survivor and 1 year into my recovery I got the NADA symbol tattooed on my wrist. It's a promise to myself to never go back, and I'll look at it whenever I'm tempted to do those things again. I tattooed a girl and her aunt and mother, all the same day. The girl had gone through chemo and was waiting on results of her cancer. I was tattooing the phrase "just let go." I crap you not. I finished the last letter and wiped the tattoo. She got a phone call before I could clean it off. It was her doctor calling she had been cleared of cancer and cancer free. It was emotional for us all, but what timing it was to get the call just as the last letter was done. I hope she is doing well. AWW yay. I did a big flower piece, cover up of self-harm scars that went all up a girl's forearm and she wanted to have them covered before her college graduation ceremony. Her mom came in a few weeks later and got tattooed, and told me how important that was to her daughter and how happy she is to no longer have to see the bad memories on her body. Both have been steady clients since and always remind me how much that tattoo changed her self-confidence and helped her move past that part of her life. Honestly, being a tattooer can desensitize you to how much certain tattoos mean to people, but situations like that always bring me genuine positive vibes x1000 knowing that my work can have such a lasting impact. Much love to all those overcoming a rough patch. Nata. Group of friends from high school have an annual camping trip together. One of maybe 2 times a year all. These days, most of us get together in the same place. A few of us sitting around the fire at 4 AM. And 2 guys kick the idea back and forth that everyone should get a tattoo to commemorate each other. They debated what the symbol should be. Something musical, but not everyone does music. Something for gaming, but not everyone games. Exhausting their options, one of them jokingly spit out, "Imagine we got our friend Doodle's face," like somewhere non-obvious but also hilarious. 2 days later, most of the group got a tattoo of Doodle's face on their thigh in the form of a Simpsons-style doodle another friend drew of him and graffitied all over our high school. The best part was the reveal. Everyone except for Doodle, who couldn't make it camping that year, had the tattoo or knew about it. We kept it a secret for 6 months until we all got together over the holidays. At the end of our secret Santa exchange, we called Doodle in to unwrap his gift. All at once, 7 guys tore off their pants to reveal Doodle's face staring back at him from 6 milky thighs and 1 pasty white butt. This is hilarious. Not a tattoo artist, but my aunt really wanted a tattoo when I was visiting her once. Lived on opposite sides of Canada pretty much. She was terminally ill and said, "I want a tattoo and I have cancer, so you have to get one with me too." We would joke about her playing the cancer card. I was against getting something off the wall as a tattoo but did it for her. She's not here anymore, but the tattoo is for sure a nice reminder of her and her sassy attitude. The artist knew my aunt was sick and thought it was crazy but nice. Not a tattoo artist. This is going to be common on this thread. I have a family member with a tattoo covering self-harm scars. They got something from one of their favorite fandoms, a protection creature, so it could keep the bad thoughts away, and they wouldn't want to screw up the tattoo they love so they wouldn't backslide. That is such a heartwarming story. Fandoms can be such an affirming and enriching thing when they are used so positively. I mean, the only tattoo that I plan on getting is just the alpha symbol. It's in remembrance of my best friend who passed away when he was 13. Pokemon Alpha Sapphire was his favorite game. This is sweet and reminds me how old I am at the same time. Nata, but got a pretty wholesome story. On my mother's side of the family, we have 26 cousins in total. We are all close and had reunions all the time. When my grandmother passed away, a majority of the cousins came to the funeral. Well, 2 of my cousins are talented tattoo artists and they decided to commemorate the importance of family. So the cousins that were there all got tattoos. Each person got the Roman numeral of their age rank tattooed somewhere on their body. It was cool that nearly a dozen of the cousins were hanging out getting tattoos together. I missed the funeral but a year later went back to get mine. I'm 10/26 so I got X tattooed. It's pretty cool that we all have something to connect us together. That's so cool. It's hard to get all family together and harder even to get them all into tattoos. Should make a great memory in the coming years. I don't know if it's all that wholesome and I'm not an artist, but I have an alright tattoo story. I was 16 and let my friend tattoo me. I really wanted a Star of David on my right middle finger. I figured I could cover it with a ring and all would be good until I was 18. My family isn't exactly tight-knit and my parents didn't pay much attention to me. One night my mom did notice it though, and when she saw it she started crying. Turns out my aunt Laura, my namesake who was murdered years before I was born, had the same tattoo in the same spot. Pretty wild. I never tell people why I got my tats, and I want to share. I got Bruce Lee because my dad was an abusive idiot and it's the first only thing we ever bonded over before he went nuts. I got a wolf wearing a trucker hat cause my uncle was obsessed with wolves. Like he wore those shirts and had that cheesy art all over his walls. I got 3 monkeys doing a see here speak no evil poses for grandpa, cause he taught me that, and was silly like a monkey. A bear with a shotgun. My best friend killed himself. No one saw it coming. I realized after he was gone. The only time I actually saw him happy was when he got a bear during hunting season. The entire rest of the time I knew him he was faking it. My tattoo artist did all of them and he doesn't even know what they mean. Cause I'd tear up every time. Just like I am writing this. Not a tattoo artist, but I have a butterfly with the breast cancer ribbon on my ankle for my girlfriend. She was diagnosed in February of this year and is on the way to recovery after a double mastectomy, and I wanted to do something for her. Thank you for being there for her. Hope things continue to get better for you both. Hugs. Not a tattoo artist, but I have a few tattoos. My most sentimental wholesome one is love you in my grandma's handwriting, from a birthday card. She had the most perfect cursive handwriting and I've always loved it. She's also the strongest person I know and during a really weak point of my life I got it tattooed on me. She has Parkinson's that started in her hands and has gradually gotten worse. She still has beautiful handwriting but it's changed. I hope to be half the mom grandmother woman she is and I have a part of her with me all the time to remind me of that. Not a tattoo artist. A drinking buddy has just a list of dates on his ribcage. I once asked what they were, and as I suspected, they were the death dates of friends. He did 6 tours overseas. Obligatory, not a tattoo artist, but I make sure all my tattoos are meaningful to me. My cousin died at age 17. I was 11. And she was an amazing girl with an awful autoimmune disease that meant she spent approximately 80% of her life indoors. She decided to make a change and raise money for a charity that would help kids like her, and sold handmade cards, giving all proceeds to them. It was for the Forget Me Not Children's charity, now hospice. They finished building a few years after she passed, so I got the words "Forget Me Not" on my foot as my first tattoo, in memory of her and all the good she did. My second tattoo is the butterfly from the game Life is Strange. It was the first video game me and my fiancé bonded over. It rewired our relationship, which had been on a downward spiral. My third tattoo is a jigsaw piece, just above my ear. I've had so many issues with my mental health. I felt like I had a little piece missing. My fourth tattoo is in memory of my grandma, who died last March. When I was leaving for university, she wrote me a note saying, "Make your dreams come true." The tattoo artist copied her handwriting and placed some dot work in the Peter Pan stars around it. The November after my grandma died, my granddad passed away too. He and I used to sit and watch the robins outside his window. So it's a robin with open wings. Sprouting from the wings are red roses. These were my grandma's favorite flowers, and my mum told me a story about how granddad had rose bushes and he would always give the single stem of the first bloom to my grandma and tell her how much he loved her. My friend David wanted to get his parents' birth years on his knuckles. He was pretty drunk, but I took him anyway. He has his mom's and dad's birth years now forever tattooed on his knuckles. They both died from different illnesses before he was even 21. He doesn't regret it, and he cried hard when it was all over. Not an artist, but immediately thought of it when I saw the title of the post. My best friend from my service days had each of his children write their names on his arm when they were old enough to do it correctly-ish. He would immediately go to the parlor and have the artists trace their handwriting, including the color the child did their name in. Not the artist, but the person tattooed. I've got a jackalope on my left thigh. It's my most sentimental tattoo. My dad used to run marathons when I was little. I didn't really understand what he was doing or why we were going to pick my dad up from the middle of nowhere all the time. I'd ask and he couldn't think of a good way to explain why he was running so much. So he eventually started telling me that he was spending time with his jackalope friend, Laurel, and would tell me about all their adventures. When I hit puberty, I went from being daddy's little girl to not being able to connect with my dad. It's not that we didn't get along, it's just that we had nothing in common. I joined my school's cross-country team in 7th grade and completely fell madly in love with running. Suddenly my dad and I had something to connect over. Sure, it's mostly comparing running stats and talking about future races, but we finally had something to say to each other. After my first half marathon, I decided to get a jackalope tattoo. My parents don't live close to me, so it's nice to be able to have something that reminds me of all the great runs my dad has shared with me. Not an artist, but the artist that did my first tattoo had a group of frat boys come in asking to get the Superman logo on their asses. He did it, not thrilled to be tattooing 10+ guys' asses, but turns out they had a buddy who was killed in an automotive incident that had the logo tattooed on his butt. A nice memorial. Not an artist, but my grandfather passed in high school and he was the guy who kept the family together. I was always against permanent markings, but it felt right getting his nickname for me tattooed across my chest in our language. I know someone who asked the coroner to make thumbprints from their mom after passing and then had it turned into tattoo with the bottoms overlapping to make shape of heart. Also, not a tattoo artist, but just got my first tattoo in July. It's the words, "Love Your Life" in Tom Hiddleston's handwriting. It came from an interview he was giving, and was later written in a card for charity, then picked up by different fans who asked for it to be added to their autographs. It's on the inside of my hip, which means I see it whenever I'm looking at the part of my body I am least happy with, belly, and it reminds me to make peace with myself and to work on the things with which I can't make peace. Since I got it over the summer, it meant foregoing some activities, like the beach and pool, while it healed. So it also reminds me that anything I want in life, my tattoo, may involve discomfort, hard decisions, foregoing one desire for another, and treating myself kindly sometimes, caring for the healing skin, but ultimately helped me reach my goal. Not an artist, but my dad got a tattoo of me and my sister's names is a rose because he loved us. I am also guessing it's because we're the only children he's actually able to contact. Personal, not a professional. Lost my mum at the start of the year, so I've basically started my addiction to tattoos with sentimental tributes to her. A most amazing family-oriented woman who was big on Sunday dinners with immediate family. Always the typical family favorite films on such as Short Circuit or The Goonies. It was then that I felt at my safest and the most whole, watching those kind of films whilst my mum smothered us with her motherly duties. I don't know if this counts for this question, but whatever. My brother rolled his truck 4 or 5 times into a ditch, and he was extremely lucky to walk away from the wreck. After the wreck he went to a tattoo shop and got a stopwatch with angel wings on the sides of the watch with a scroll underneath the watch. The time on the stopwatch was the time he wrecked and on the scroll was the date he wrecked. He also got a semicolon on the web of his hand for suicide prevention. I'm not an artist, but I do have a story about my first tattoo. My grandmother passed away about 2 years ago from heart failure, so around her 2-year anniversary I decided to get my first tattoo in her honor. A hummingbird with a halo, and a clover in its mouth, along with her birth and eat gear underneath. Hummingbirds used to be her favorite. She was an angel on earth and she died on St. Patrick's Day. Nata, but I have a cat on my thigh covering my self-harm scares with the quote self-care isn't selfish. Few months down the line, adopt a cat who matches the generic tattoo perfectly. Not a tattoo artist, but I had one do a tattoo across the back of my shoulders that says keep your head held high with my dad's birth and death dates to remind myself of him. The tattoo artist was so kind and made it so beautiful that I smile a little bit every time I see it in the mirror. Not a tattoo artist. So my brother and his friend were both killed by a drunk driver, so a bunch of people got tattoos in honor of them. My brother's friend's sister got his first and middle name tattooed onto her wrist because she was the one who named him. My brother's girlfriend has his portrait on her lower arm. All of my brother's friends got the same N as my brother because it's the first letter in the name of our town and they all were friends since elementary school. My brother was nothing but pride for where he was born and raised. My cousin has my brother's entire name on his chest. My mom's first tattoo was just his nickname in cursive. She later got 2 turtles, one around my brother's name and one for my brother's stepson. One of my brother's friends said that my brother came to him in a dream saying that if you see a turtle, it's him. Crap you not. I know of 3 encounters and 2 of them happened to my brother's stepson. Me and my cousin are going to get a tattoo for my brother as soon as possible. It will be a turtle that my grandpa had painted on the wall at their old place. An Asian girl came inside the store and asked me to tattoo 2 cats cuddling on her arm. After the job was done she went outside the store and started petting my cats and let them crawl on her. She stayed there for about 15 minutes. I gave her the $50 that she gave me back. I couldn't stop thinking about that ever since. Not my story, but one of my aunts. She had recently gotten off heroin and wanted to do something to help keep herself off. So she decided to get a small line tattooed on the inside of her wrist so whenever she feels like going back, she can look at it and remember how far she's gotten. 1 line for every year she's clean. And we're up to 5. Gonna be 6 next month. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.